This recorded lecture is dedicated to our final module on systematic biology lecture. We'll cover high-level discussion on the systematics of phylum Chordata. Okay. Phylum Chordata includes both vertebrate and non-vertebrate representatives. Non-vertebrate chordates that belong to basal groups, basal lineages, particularly Hemichordata, Cephalochordata, and Urochordata. And we have the aquatic vertebrates, fishes, the aquatic terrestrial group, the amphibians, and we have the reptiles, birds, and mammals, which are mostly or which are all terrestrial animals. Amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals are under tetrapoda. They're characterized by having four appendages or four limbs that enable them to move or stay, that enable them to move on the terrestrial, I don't know, habitats or ecosystems. Okay, so here are some representative photos. Here, the first one you can see is a non-vertebrate chordate, a tunicate. Then you have a cephalochordate here on the second picture. You have an example of a fish, shark, then an amphibian, a reptile, snake, bird, or class Aves, and of course mammals. Okay, so in this article, you can do extended reading to discuss or to know more about the systematics and the grouping of um, chordata. No? Chordates share very close relationship with a superphyla, a superphyletic group, the ambulacrarians. The ambulacrarians, along with chordates, are deuterostomic animals. So for the case of ambulacrarians, the representative phyla or groups are Hemichordata and echinoderms. Hemichordata, the acorn worms. No? These two groups of animals share uh, specific morphology in terms of their transitional state. They possess a diplurula larvae, which is usually surrounded by cilia, allowing that larvae, which is essentially a free living one, to move in the ambient. No? Now, moving on to the chordates. So the chordates are composed of three major subphyla. The cephalochordata, which is the basal among the chordata, the first one to delineate or differentiate from the two other groups. Cephalochordates, mostly the um, lancelet and the non-vertebrate chordates that possess persistent structures shared by the embryos of chordata, which we'll discuss in a little bit. Then the urochordates, the sea tunicates, and vertebrates are sister to one another. Okay, so but all three share the following characteristics. They move at the transitional form, the larvae move using a muscular tail, a muscular post-anal tail. There is a presence of a notochord and dorsal neural tube at a particular stage of the animal, although for the case of vertebrata, these uh, characteristics or these structures are lost in the adult form, in the adult stage. Vertebrates are characterized by a number of complex structures or complex adaptations, such as the duplication of the genome of the animal, the presence of definitive head or very distinct cephalization, a presence of a jaw, and an immune system that can adapt with the ambient, meaning an immune system that is able to mount and develop to that is able to develop and mount a specific response to pathogens in the environment, and such develop um, immune responses can change over time, or they are what we call adaptive. No? Okay. Now let's first cover the key characteristics of chordates. Okay. So the following structures enumerated here may be present in some stage of the chordate, in some of the developmental stages of the chordate, and others do not persist throughout the adulthood. No? In some representatives, particularly in vertebrates, some of the structures do not persist. So four key structures. We have a dorsal hollow nerve cord, which is the most dorsal among these structures. Below it is a notochord, no? Then near the mouth, the oral cavity of the growing chordate or the developing chordate, there is the presence of pharyngeal slits or pharyngeal pouches that in invertebrates give rise to specific structures of the gut and specific structures of the other complex systems such as the respiratory and the respiratory and what they call this, the digestive system. And then there is a post-anal tail. Okay, so just remember these four important key structures shared by chordata. Okay, here you can see an example of a cephalochordate. Um, uh, this is this example is a lancelet, or this animal, most commonly known as lancelet. You can see the adult form possesses the key structures that are shared by the chordata group. Okay. Now moving on to the uh, uh, chordate proper. Let's cover the basal groups first. So let's have the hemichordates. Hemichordates, the acorn worms. Okay. Morphologically, you can appreciate that they have a tripartite body plan. So the body is divided into a proboscis, a collar, similar to, or morphologically looking like the clitellum of the annelida, and the trunk. No? There is no notochord, but a stomochord is present. Stomochord, once thought to be homologous to the notochord, but is essentially a very different structure. It's flexible and rod-like in appearance. The nerve system of hemichordates possess or is characterized by the presence of a dorsal and ventral nerve cords. The pharyngeal slits are present, primarily important for the animal to acquire nutrients. The circulatory system is said to be open, not confined in blood vessels. Most of acorn worms are dioecious animals, and fertilization happens in the ambient. So there is release of the gametogenic cells outside the body of the male and the female animal. Development is said to be indirect. There is a larval stage called a tornaria, um, that is transitional to the adult, or that is transitioning to the adult as the animal proceeds development. Hemichordates, in terms of habitat, are mostly marine animals. They are burrowing or sessile in nature. And some example genus include the following. Okay. Next, we have the sister group to Chordata, or to Vertebrata, the subphylum Cephalochordata. So for cephalochordates, there is a persistent notochord which extends from head to the tail of the animal. And this notochord is not only confined during the, or it's not only present during the larval stage of the animal, but is persistent until the animal becomes an adult. No? There is a dorsal nerve cord which is hollow and lies dorsal to the notochord. And although there is a definitive or morphologically characterizable head portion of the animal, brain is not well developed. There's no well developed brain, no cranium of some sort that houses the animal's brain. No, for the pharyngeal slits, they are persistent. They may appear in multiple pairs, and similar with hemichordata, they are useful for nutrient acquisition. Water will enter the mouth of the animal and can exit via the atriophore while passing through the slits, no? The pairs of pharyngeal slits. A post-anal tail is also present in the adult animal and used primarily for locomotion. Uh, the myomeres, the segmented musculature of cephalochordata, uh, appears as blocks along the body of the animal, allowing the animal to move or swim, since they are mostly aquatic, swim via undulating movement. So they don't really swim like, similar with how fishes do it because they don't have fins. Rather, the segmented myomeres allow the animal to undulate and move from one location to another. There is no bony skeleton that supports the framework of the animal. Okay, there's also no true vertebral column that similar to or unlike vertebrata. No bony or cartilaginous skeleton is found. The circulatory system of cephalochordata is said to be a closed system, but remember that there is no true heart that pumps the body fluid throughout the animal's body. Now, instead, vessels, the blood vessels, are contractile in nature. The excretory system possesses a primitive modality or is in primitive mode. The structure is said to be a protonephridia with associated cells called solenocytes, important for secretion, for excretion, for regulation of fluid balance, for osmoregulation. More about cephalochordates. The key characteristics of this group include the digestive system being a complete one. No? So there is a complete digestive system characterized with the mouth, a pharyngeal muscular structure, the intestines, and the anal opening. No? It follows what we call, cephalochordates have what we call a hepatic cecum, a primitive form of the liver. No? So it's called hepatic cecum. Similar with hemichordates, most cephalochordates are dioecious, also carries out external fertilization, and development is indirect. There is a free swimming larva that transitions to an adult later on. Most cephalochordates are also aquatic, marine. They burrow in sand and in shallow coastal waters, so they can be found in near the coast, no, or on the coast. They are filter feeding animals. Water enters through the oral hood and leaves via the atriophore. Okay. Then we have the Urochordata, the Urochordates. Key characteristics of Urochordates: there is a body covering made by a cellulose-like material called tunicin. So that's the reason why the common or the regular name for Urochordata is the tunicates or tunicata. So the notochord is present only during the larval stage. Dorsal nerve cord, similar with the notochord, is lost during the adulthood of the animal. Pharyngeal slits are numerous but are persistent in adult during the development. It is kept, no, allows the animal to carry out filter feeding. Most of Urochordata are sessile animals. They can also be planktonic as adults, but the larva shared with the other chordata is said to be tadpole-like in appearance. The circulatory system is said to be open. There is a heart, an anatomical heart that carries out reverse pumping. No, For reproduction, tunicates are mostly hermaphroditic, carrying out external fertilization, and most of them are marine animals. Some representative genera includes Shiona, Salfa, and Acidia. Okay. Then we have, of course, the highlight of our lecture for Module 12, the subphylum Vertebrata, comprising 99%, the majority of all chordates. So vertebrates possess the key character, the vertebral column or the backbone, which is a replacement of the notochord as the embryo matures into an adult form. The endoskeleton of vertebrates grows as the animal grows. So there is a bony or cartilaginous framework or a cartilaginous skeleton, a bony or cartilaginous skeleton that gives the animal its overall shape, no, or its stability. Okay, made up of living cells. The cells, osteocytes or chondrocytes, whatever the type of the endoskeleton is, if it's cartilaginous or bony, these cells are alive and secrete substance to strengthen the bone. So that's the reason why the endoskeleton of vertebrates grow as the animal grows. Okay, so some representatives include the amphibians, the fishes, the amphibians, birds, reptiles, and the mammalia. Okay, so just a review. So this is how we can look at the deuterostomia, no? So the ambulacrarians, which cover the echinoderms and the hemichordates, the acorn worms, the chordata, which include the lancelets, the cephalochordata, the urochordata, the tunicates, and of course, a subphylum vertebrata. Okay, so before we proceed with discussing more about subphylum vertebrata, I'll have to cut the recording short so it won't be too much on your end to screen. I will upload this first part first, and then I'll record the second part right away.